Sound, a group.
From the beginner to the professional, from the novice to the master, from playing and experimenting with things to create a masterpiece. These are all the elements of art, and our art on this show is sound. Hi, I'm L.V. Smith, host of the show Sounds Within. Yes, I have a hat here. I'm proud of this hat. It does correspond to the empowerment of women around the world, but you know what? Men who support the empowerment of all women, children, all, we have the right to wear the hat in support too. Thank you. I'm here and proud to present two dear friends who came back to continue a magnificent journey of mentoring others. The indistinguishable Dr. Mae, right here, and her prodigy, Smile Lady, aka Deborah Johnson. And we just had to continue on the saga of Dr. Mae and how it transferred down to future doctor, or you're doctor now, right?
No, well, working towards it by faith. Thanks for saying that. Yeah.
Well, we're working on this project to see how the progress of the future Dr. Johnson, or Dr. Smile Lady it may be, is moving along. Now, in our last episode, Dr. Mae, you were telling us what was happening when you first moved to Tuskegee Institute and how it was way different from your old environment. And you brought so many things happening that we just had to continue on this journey. We want to keep having this journey on a regular basis so we can leave a legacy for others to follow, especially in these times.
Yes.
That's why I'm wearing my hat. So we're going to talk about how this hat come to the making of now.
Yes.
Excellent.
Well, I said to Mrs. Williams, who owned the home, and with Dr. Williams, I am so appreciative of the fact that you are allowing me to come here and live so that I can go to school. And she said, I'm sure that we will get along just fine. We are going to really have a great time, and you're going to be so much help to me with the little girl I just adopted. And so we started our journey. And I was actually the combination housekeeper and nanny for the family. And this went on for 4 years, 3 years of high school and 4 years of college.
Wow, so it's 8 years.
7 years.
7 years.
3 years of high school.
That tells me why.
7th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and 4 years of college at Tuskegee. It was the most amazing experience. Though right now when I look back on it, I wonder how I got over.
Gee, Smile, or Smile Lady is known. How does that relate to you, what you heard?
Well, number one, in Smile, the first letter in Smile is support. And it showed how important the support of the village and support helped her on her journey. And that is something that we must pay forward. You know, like the Sankofa, where you reach back and boom and bring it forward. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why Dr. Mae is so giving in the community, because what had happened to her. You know, you just paying it forward. And with her, with me, she was on my thesis committee at Pacific Oaks.
So I also see a lot of that in the work you do, what she mentored, and you giving back to the community.
Exactly, birds of a feather. And what happened is, you know, with her being on my thesis committee and me following the pattern of her dissertation, because you got your doctorate from USC, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then helping me. They even said that my thesis was so deep because she helped me. I wrote my thesis like a dissertation. Remember that?
Yes.
They said, this is not a dissertation, this is a thesis. And so I had to dumb my thesis down
Dumb it down.
because we were too brilliant, I would say, Dr. May.
Ahead of the time.
Ahead of the times, yes, yes. So.
Yes.
Well, you know what? We're going to take a little breather, and we're going to come right back to continue on the journey of a magnificent mentor.
Yes.
Stick around, folks.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Hi, I'm LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within, which comes on Fridays, 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Hey, be sure you tune in and watch Thursday Night Live with Jeff Hodge, Thursday at 10 p.m. See you then.
Hi, we're Climax, and you're watching Sounds Within with LV Smith.
Hey, it's LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within with co-host Smile Lady of Spread a Little Joy. And of course, our guest of honor, Dr. Mae Cowan. Welcome back again. Now, Dr. Mae, you were about to tell us about the education process, which became the foundation of your learning to become a great educator that you are. Would you expound upon that, please?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first got to Tuskegee, I went to high school there. And of course, I had so much diversity in the high school, not as far as race was concerned, but as far as differences in economic level and that sort of thing. There were some people, kids who wore designer clothes and everything, and I was not used to that. And there were people who didn't really care about school at all, and they were just there because they had to be. So I just simply ignored all of that and concentrated on my goals. And my goal was to graduate with very high grades, and that's what I did. It was a wonderful experience. At the end of the experience, we were all at the senior class was asked to write poems, and the best poem would be selected to be recited at the graduation. Well, I wrote a poem, and to my surprise, my poem was selected. Mm-hmm. This was an amazing thing because all the students already knew who was going to write the best poem. Her name was Yolala, and she was the poet of the class. So she wrote a poem, and other people did too, and my poem was selected to be included in the program and for me to recite at graduation.
Wow.
So that was quite an achievement for
Yes, it was.
that person who came from the heart of rural Alabama.
I have to agree.
And so I graduated from high school and I went to enroll in college. Well, of course, I had no money because money was not anything that we had on a farm in Alabama.
No.
And so Mrs. Williams, my hostess, took me to Tuskegee, the university, and we talked about what I was going to major in and that sort of thing. Then it came to the question of how I was going to pay for it. And I said, well, I'm willing to work at whatever is necessary to get through school. And Booker T. Washington, with great foresight, developed a 5-year plan for students just as I was.
Wait a minute, this is something I never heard of before.
That was a 5-year plan, that you go to school with everybody else, you do everything that everybody else does, but it takes 5 years to get your degree instead of 4, because a good part of that time is spent working at the college. And so I said to them, I appreciate it very much, but I don't want a 5-year plan. I plan to graduate in 4 years. They said, that will kill you. I said, well, you don't have any idea what it takes to kill me.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so the person who was in charge said, well, since you seem to be so set on doing this, we'll allow it. It's the first time anybody asked to do this.
First time.
Yes, that to get a 4-year degree, instead of getting a 4-year degree in 5 years, to do all the work that anybody in the 5-year plan did, but at the same time to get the degree in 4 years.
That is remarkable. Hey, Smiles, what do you think if we were to implement some of the things that we hear a lot about Booker T. Washington and things, and a lot of it, some of it's been negative.
Right.
But I never heard of the 5-year plan or the 4-year plan, whatever plan, where students who are economically challenged could give back while working towards a degree. I mean, even the 5-year plan.
I'm totally for that. I'm totally for that. And I'm sad that they took the vocational schools away.
Thank you.
I personally went to Jane Addams Vocational School for Girls in Cleveland, Ohio. And at the age of 14, when I entered into the school, you worked a half a day and you went to school. That was part of your entire thing. I recently retired because I retired in the field that I went to school in. I had a skill. It didn't say you couldn't go to college later, but when you graduated from high school, you had not only a career, but you had your diploma, and you could go to college and maybe expand on that if that's what you wanted to continue to do. So I totally agree. And everybody is not college material. Some people just have the skills, and if you go with Howard Gardner, there's 9 forms of intelligence.
Thank you.
And they only focus on concentrate on, I should say, about 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah,
That's it.
in the schools. And it was 7 at first, but now with technology and different things like that, they've added 2 more to Howard Gardner's
Right.
intelligence thing. Yes.
Right, and especially now, I saw the downgrading of education.
Oh, gosh.
Where
Don't
they
get me started.
remove the shops.
Yes.
Where they would say, oh, that's only for the thug life or whatever to go into, but they provided jobs. And all our manufacturing jobs are gone, and so the 45th president's walking around, he's going to bring back jobs. And we're not giving our future citizens a chance to compete, be it, let alone college, but even in high school, to get something where they can contribute and flourish.
Right.
Okay, so let's just move on a little bit more about you, Dr. Mae, where you move like in
Yes.
a minute.
Well, my job turned out to be in the Department of Records and Research with Dr. Guzman.
Awesome.
And she was a very wonderful woman, but very hard, difficult to work with. So I had to learn how to work with her.
A challenge.
And that was one of the things that kept me going in so many of life circumstances later, that I learned how to get along with anybody, to work with anybody, and to deal with any situation.
That's what I was about to say.
In the Department of Records and Research, one of our major roles was to get out every year the Negro records of Negro history records. And this was everything that had happened all over the country related to African American people. And this was put into a book about that thick
So that
every year.
So this is sort of like the predecessor to African American history.
Right.
So when we come back, we're going to talk more about that book where Negro history transformed eventually to African American
That's right.
history in our next episode, which will be coming shortly. See you then, folks. I'm LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within, which comes on every Friday, 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. When I'm not producing that show, I like to watch James Jones Jr.'s show, which is called Anybody Can Play Guitar, which comes on Fridays at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. See you then.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Ready or not, here I come.
Take time to be a dad today.
Daddy, I'm gonna find you.
Hi, I'm LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within. When I'm not producing television, I like to look at Behind the Curtain with Eric Bailey. Hi, LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within. Sounds like a lot of black history or women's history. Well, let me tell you, folks, we the people, be it black, brown, red, male, female, whatever, we're around year round. So history is every day, or her story is every day. So we can get back to Smile Lady and the great Dr. Mae talking about that great experience of mentoring, the magnificent journey. And you were telling us, Dr. Mae, about the Negro history, which was heavy-duty research.
Yes.
Would you continue, please?
Yes, of course. This book had to be done by reading practically every newspaper that carried anything about black people every day. And there were 2 other full-time employees doing this, and I was to work with them and cut out all the articles and put them in what we call scrapbooks. And we did this every single day. And so we were required to read all of these articles. That was such a great experience for me.
I would have loved that.
But it wasn't all pleasant
No, it's not, wasn't.
because when I came across the stories about lynchings of black men, I sat at the typewriter and literally the tears ran down my face as I was putting all of this together. It was just incredible. And some of the reasons why black men were lynched. One of the reasons I will never forget that affected me the most was he was found under the white woman's bed. Now that said a lot that was not printed. And later I found out from many black men in the community that when they worked around the yard and so forth, the white women got very attached to them. And they would call the black man up to say, now, something's wrong with the sink, John, come here and fix it. He would go in and look under the sink, and she would say, here's a glass of lemonade. And he would look back, and there she stood stark naked. And from there on, there was this great dilemma. Now, fortunately, in that town, and I think in most other towns, there were some really compassionate white people.
Yes.
They set out to avoid or to stop as many of these experiences as they possibly could. So they let it be known that they had these packages that a black man caught in these circumstances, his family could come and get a package with clothing and money and all the stuff that he would need to sustain himself for 3 or 4 days. And they would take it, he would take this, and he would go to the freight train that came around the curve and hop this straight freight train up north.
Wow.
And that's how so many black men were saved.
Wow.
Wow. Smiles. It seems like we're repeating history again.
Yep.
Would you care to share your point of view? What was shared from back then to how it's relating to now?
Well, how it's related to now, instead of the actual lynching, is the beating. Instead of the actual slavery, is the prison system. Instead of the, like with Black Wall Street back in 1931 when that was burned and bombed out, anytime we look like we're going to become successful, they figuratively bomb us or destroy, so it makes you afraid of success. So in that particular point, they're doing the same thing, mentally lynching us, and it really hasn't changed.
They're starting to bring back the lynching.
Yes, so yes. I mean, just with the last ruling right now, and going back to Women's History Month and relating it, that it is legal to say, you cannot work for me because you have dreads or locks. That is legal now. That just became legal.
Or wear a hoodie.
Before they were doing that covertly and saying that we didn't want you but wouldn't tell you why. Now they're able to say,
Overtly.
I do not want you because you have locks. So the things really, it seems like it's even getting sometimes worse, I think.
I have to share with you some things I've been noticing. I wasn't the biggest fan of Nixon, but then came this equal opportunity program, which allowed me to go to school because I was a struggling student, and some folks pushed me, my better half, to succeed. I noticed that after a period of time, they'll start saying, well, it's favoring one group over another, when there was designed originally to say the same number of people in the predominant group get to attend, we're just going to add some seats. Then they start cutting education, which is in the regular community, which makes it harder for struggling students or challenged students to make it. This pattern is continuing today.
I would see what they, who they are, say to be correct if we started at a level playing field, but we did not.
Thank you.
And that's where it gets me. Am I the only one that sees the elephant in the room? You're going to come out of 300 or 400 years of slavery, no skills, just what you do for them, and say, okay, everything is equal. That's like putting a one-legged man in a track race and say, okay, you got the same opportunity to run the race. Come on now. You know, sometimes I wonder who they think they're talking to, you know, and if we didn't have any brains when we were born. But to me, yes, that would be correct if we started on a level playing field. But right now, guess what? When you plant seeds, it grows up to be a tree. They're reaping what they sowed.
Thank you very much.
The trees are now bearing fruit, and now they're upset.
Yep, and we have to eat that fruit.
Exactly.
Okay, Dr. Mae, would you continue a little bit on before we go to our next break? What's been happening?
Well, I worked every hour when I was not in class, and my work was excellent. And when I went home, I cleaned 3 rooms a day. And I mean cleaned, I don't mean went over. The mistress of the house she really knew how to clean. But she only had to do it one time and show me. So she showed me how to polish hardwood floors, how to vacuum. I'd never seen a vacuum cleaner.
You know, it was invented by African American.
Yes, right. And I would clean 3 rooms every day. And that would get all of the rooms cleaned except the kitchen and washing the clothes. I washed the clothes on Saturday morning.
What an experience, Dr. Mae. You know what? You have to come back for another episode because there's so much rich information that has to be shared. Very moving, just can make a person just freeze and just think, what are we going through or what have we been through? So wait till we come right back next time on Sounds Within. And yes, we're going to have Dr. Mae and the future Dr. Smile Lady back on this episode. So see you then, folks. Hi, I'm LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within, which comes on every Friday, 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. When I'm not producing that show, I like to watch James Jones Jr.'s show, which is called Anybody Can Play Guitar, which comes on Fridays at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. See you then.
Morning, Gary. We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you?
You know you do.
Yeah, but I don't know where to start. That's why we're here. We're free, handsome,
I think we're breathtaking.
and here to guide you through every step of the way, starting with attendance. Gary, financial aid forms. Biology homework, G. I got this. Is that Bran? Colleges love extracurricular activities.
Chess really isn't my thing.
I got this. Doesn't matter. Go ahead. Picking a college, man. You and us. We go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos.
Fire and ice.
Those don't really go together.
Go to GetSchooled.com for more info.
Hi, I'm LV Smith, host of the show Sounds Within, which comes on every Friday, 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. When I'm not producing that show, I like to watch James Jones Jr.'s show, which is called Anybody Can Play Guitar, which comes on Fridays at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. See you then.